While recuperating from surgery, I overheard my wife and adolescent daughter in the corridor outside my hospital room. Once Dad passes away, we'll finally receive his life insurance and can relocate to a better place. I know, Mom. I'm just so exhausted from pretending to care about him. They entered with forced smiles, unaware that I had heard everything. I weakly thanked them for the flowers they brought. 2 weeks later, they both realized the grave error they had made. Life can indeed catch up to you quickly. Hold on tight. It's going to be a tumultuous ride. For context, I've been with Cindy for 22 years and married for 2 decades. We have a 17-year-old daughter, Megan, who is expected to head to college next year. I've always worked tirelessly to ensure they had a decent life. Not wealthy by any means, but we live in a modest 3-bedroom house in a respectable neighborhood. It's nothing extravagant, but I was proud of what I provided. 2 weeks ago, I had to visit the ER due to what was diagnosed as a severely infected gallbladder. The pain was excruciating. Imagine someone repeatedly stabbing you while setting your insides ablaze. They rushed me into emergency surgery, but complications arose. My doctor later informed me that my gallbladder had essentially become a ticking time bomb, and its removal was complicated. I ended up with a severe infection that kept me in the hospital for a week. However, the surgery itself isn't the crucial part. It's what transpired on the 3rd day of my hospital stay. I was drifting in and out due to the medication, in that strange state where you're neither fully asleep nor fully awake, when I heard voices outside my door. Cindy and Megan had texted earlier that they were bringing flowers. I was about to call out to them when I heard something that made my blood run cold. Cindy was speaking in an eager, hushed tone I hadn't heard from her in years. She mentioned that once I died, they'd finally get the life insurance money and could move somewhere better. Once I died, not if, but when, as if she was counting on it. Then Megan, my little girl, responded that she was so tired of pretending to care about me. It felt as though someone had physically ripped my heart out. I had never experienced anything like it. They had no idea I was awake. The door was slightly ajar, and they were just standing in the hallway discussing my death as though it were casual, inconvenienced by my continued existence. I had about 10 seconds to process this before they opened the door. Let me tell you, the Academy Awards have nothing on these two. They entered with bright smiles and feigned concern. Cindy kissed my forehead, and Megan placed a vase of flowers down, asking how I was feeling. Somehow, I managed to weakly thank them for the flowers, saying I was tired and asking if they could return later. They looked almost relieved to have an excuse to leave. After they departed, I lay there staring at the ceiling for hours, unable to sleep, unable to cry, just numb. What's truly disturbing is that part of me wondered if I'd imagined the whole thing. The medication was strong. Maybe I dreamt it. But then I began reflecting on the past year. How? Cindy had been asking strange questions about my life insurance policy. I'd updated when Megan was born, how she'd made comments about her friend's new house in a more upscale neighborhood, and how Megan had become increasingly distant, always too busy to watch our traditional Sunday football games together. These little things didn't seem significant at the time, but when pieced together, they painted a different picture. That night, I devised a plan. First, I texted my brother Owen. We've always been close, and I knew I could trust him. I asked him to come to the hospital alone the next morning without giving details. Owen arrived around 9 a.m., right after the nurses had finished their rounds, so we had some privacy. I told him everything. At first he thought I was joking, can't blame him. It sounded like something out of a trashy daytime TV show, but he saw my expression and understood. Owen suggested hiring a private investigator, but I wasn't ready to take that step yet. Instead, I asked him to dig through our home computer when Cindy and Megan weren't around. He has a key to our house for emergencies. 2 days later, Owen returned with screenshots. Cindy had been searching how long after death the life insurance pays out in the average hospital stay for gallbladder complications. She was also looking at houses in neighborhoods we could never afford on my salary alone. There were emails to a realtor about viewing properties once things settled down. I felt like I was trapped in an alternate reality. This woman had shared my life for over 20 years. We had built a life together. I remembered how she had cried. Happy tears when I surprised her with a weekend getaway for our 10th anniversary. It was nothing extravagant, just a little cabin by the lake, but it was all I could afford at the time. How she had held my hand through my mother's funeral 5 years ago. Was all of that just a facade? Had she been waiting for me to die this entire time? And Megan, that was even more painful. I had taught her to ride a bike, stayed up all night helping her with science fair projects, worked double shifts to buy her a laptop for school. I thought we had a solid relationship. Not perfect, but solid. Apparently, I was mistaken. The next few days in the hospital felt surreal. They visited every day, and I observed them with new eyes. Cindy checking the monitors when she thought I wasn't looking, asking the nurses about my progress in a tone that now sounded insincere. Always on her phone, barely engaging, clearly just there out of obligation. I began exaggerating my symptoms, wincing more when moving, discussing how tired I was, and how the doctors were concerned about my recovery. I noticed something flicker in Cindy's eyes when I mentioned that the doctor wanted to run more tests. Was it hope? The thought made me sick. On day 5, Owen brought my tablet so I could watch some shows. I instead logged into our shared accounts and checked our joint banking history. Cindy had recently been shopping more. Not anything overly expensive, but small luxury items, new shoes, fancy skincare products, meals at nice restaurants with her friends. Meanwhile, she had been complaining about money, being tight and asking me to cut back on my monthly poker, night with friends, which costs all of $30. I also discovered she had called our insurance company 3 times in the past month just to verify details, according to the call logs I could view. By the time I was discharged a week after surgery, I had a pretty clear understanding. My wife of 20 years was waiting for me to die and had likely been waiting for years, and she had poisoned my daughter against me too. The doctor provided strict recovery instructions. 6 weeks of taking it easy, no heavy lifting and regular checkups. I nodded, thanking him while internally making very different plans. Cindy drove me home, fussing over me in a way that now felt suffocating. She had set up a temporary bed in the living room, so I wouldn't have to manage the stairs. How thoughtful. Or perhaps she just wanted to monitor my condition more easily. That night, while they thought I was asleep, I texted Owen again, asking for his help with something significant, something that would ensure Cindy and Megan would regret the day they decided my life was worth more to them as an insurance payout than as a husband and father. I may be down, but I'm certainly not out. And in 2 weeks, they're both going to realize what a grave mistake they've made. Update. First off, wow. Thank you all for the responses to my last post. My inbox exploded. Thanks for all the support and advice. Some of you guessed what I was planning, and you weren't far off. It's been exactly 1 week since I came home from the hospital, one of the strangest weeks of my life. Have you ever tried to act normal around people who you now know are essentially waiting for you to kick the bucket? I do not recommend it. The morning after I got home, I called my buddy Arthur while Cindy was out grocery shopping. Arthur and I go way back. We played football together in high school, and he was my best man. He's also a lawyer, which has come in handy. I told him everything, the conversation I overheard, the evidence Owen found, all of it. Arthur was silent for a while before saying, "Damn, that's cold." He advised me not to confront them yet, suggesting I needed more evidence and to get my finances in order first. Smart guy. He came over the next day while Cindy was at her weekly book club. Spoiler alert, based on her Goodreads activity, she hasn't actually read a book in months. We sat in my temporary living room bed setup and he walked me through my options. Divorce is obviously on the table, but there's more to it than that. I wanted to ensure that when I pulled the trigger on this, there would be no room for them to worm their way back in or take me for more than they deserve, which at this point is exactly nothing. The first thing Arthur suggested was changing my life insurance policy. Currently, Cindy is the primary beneficiary, with Megan as secondary. We set it up that way years ago when Megan was little. The policy is worth $350,000, not a fortune, but enough to apparently inspire nefarious thoughts in my dear wife's heart. Arthur helped me contact my insurance agent to make the changes. I removed Cindy completely and split it so that 60% goes to a cancer research foundation. My dad died of cancer 10 years ago, and 40% to Megan. But with a twist, it goes into a trust she can't access until she turns 30, and my brother Owen will be the trustee, not Cindy. So even if I do kick the bucket, Cindy gets exactly nothing. Next up were our joint bank accounts. We had around $37,000 in savings. Not a lot, but we've been saving a little each month for years. Arthur advised me to move half into a new account in my name. Legally, I'm entitled to 50% without raising red flags in divorce proceedings. So that's what I did, transferred $1,800 to a new account at a different bank. The look on the bank teller's face when I explained. I needed a new account, she probably thought. I was dying for real and trying to hide money from the government or something. While I was dealing with the financial matters, Owen was helping me gather more evidence. He's been coming over to assist around the house during my recovery. And Cindy seemed grateful at first. Less work for her. But Owen's been paying attention. He noticed how she barely checks on me when she thinks no one is watching, how she sighs heavily when she has to bring me something, little things that accumulate. Additionally, he overheard phone calls she's been making from the back porch, speaking quietly. One time, he accidentally overheard her talking to her friend Lisa about houses in Oak Ridge, a fancy neighborhood we've driven through before, with me commenting that we could never afford it. Owen said she was discussing financing options that would be available soon. I started keeping a video diary on my phone, just short clips where I discuss what's happening, how I'm feeling, and what I've discovered, complete with date and timestamps. Arthur said it might be useful if things get messy in court. Plus, honestly, it helps to talk it out, even if it's just to my phone camera at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep. The craziest part is pretending. I've been playing up my weaknesses, moving slower than necessary, wincing more than I need to. The doctor said recovery would take about 6 weeks, but I'm already feeling better, not 100%, but definitely not the invalid I'm pretending to be. It's a strange psychological game I'm playing, and it's working. Cindy's become comfortable with the notion that I'm essentially helpless. She started taking more time for herself, going out with friends, shopping trips, even a weekend getaway that I'm pretty sure I'm funding. Meanwhile, I'm supposedly too weak to do much beyond shuffling to the bathroom and back. 3 days ago, I hit the jackpot. Cindy left her laptop open when she went to take a shower. I almost didn't look. It felt like a line I wasn't sure I wanted to cross. But then I recalled the hospital hallway and how casually they discussed my death. So I looked. Her search history was revealing. Lots of luxury items far beyond our budget, vacation destinations, and countless emails with her friend Lisa about their plans for a fresh start. One email literally said, "Hanging in there. Won't be much longer now." Who says that about their husband who just had surgery? I took pictures of everything with my phone, adding them to my growing collection of evidence. Then there was Megan. That's been the hardest part of all this. I kept hoping she was just going along with Cindy, that she didn't truly mean what she said. But yesterday, Megan left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to the bathroom. I knew her passcode, it's her birthday, very secure. I opened her messages and found a group chat with her friends, where she was complaining about having to nurse me. She called me pathetic, said she couldn't wait to escape this dump, and that her mom had promised they'd move somewhere, better once the insurance came through. One of her friends asked if that was kind of messed up. Megan replied, "Whatever, he's barely even my real dad anyway. He's just the guy who married my mom." That hit differently. I'm not her biological father. Cindy had her from a previous relationship, but I've raised her since she was 2. I'm the only dad she's ever known. I've never treated her as anything less than my own flesh and blood. I was there for every school play, every scraped knee, every nightmare. I set aside money every month for her college fund, and this is how she really feels. I sat there holding her phone, feeling as if I'd been punched in the stomach. I almost confronted her right then, but I remembered Arthur's advice. Stick to the plan. Don't reveal your cards too early. So, I returned her phone, went to my temporary bed in the living room, and made a decision regarding that college fund. You see, I've been saving for Megan's education since she was 3. It's not a proper college fund with all the tax benefits. We couldn't afford that setup. Just a dedicated savings account with about $42,000 in it. It's in my name, intended to be given to her when she starts college next year. Well, intentions can change. I called Arthur again and discovered that legally, the money is mine. I don't have to give her a penny. But despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to just take it all away. So we devised a compromise. The money will go into a trust similar to the life insurance arrangement. She can only use it for her education, with Owen approving payments directly to the school. No new car, no apartment in a fancy area with her mom. Just education as it was always meant to be. Last night I made my final preparations. I transferred the college fund into the new trust arrangement, gathered all my evidence into a folder on a flash drive with a backup in the cloud, practiced what I was going to say, how I was going to say it, and then texted both Cindy and Megan, asking if we could have a special family dinner tomorrow. I mentioned that I was feeling a bit better and wanted to celebrate a small victory. Cindy seemed surprised but agreed, while Megan replied with, "Sure, whatever," her typical response these days. Owen and Arthur both think I should wait longer, gather more evidence, but I'm done waiting. I'm done pretending. The betrayal gnaws at me every day, making it harder to maintain the act. Every fake smile from Cindy, every reluctant, "Do you need anything, Dad?" from Megan, it's all becoming too overwhelming. So tomorrow night, I'm laying it all out. Dinner is set for 6 p.m. I've asked Owen to be on standby in case things turn ugly. I have printouts of everything, the hospital bill showing, The dates and times when they were there, screenshots of their messages, bank statements revealing Cindy's spending, everything. Part of me is anxious, not about their reactions. Honestly, I'm beyond caring about their feelings at this point. I'm nervous about how I'll feel afterward. Will this even bring me relief? But then I remember the cold, calculating way they discussed my death and how the people I've given everything for were merely waiting for me to die so they could cash in. And suddenly I'm not nervous anymore. I'm ready. The table is set, the evidence is prepared, and in 24 hours, Cindy and Megan will understand the grave mistake they've made. Final update. All right, Reddit, it's been 3 days since the dinner. Sorry for the delay in updating. I needed time to process everything that transpired. Plus, I've been busy moving my things out. I promised you all the final chapter of this saga, so here it is. First off, thanks for all the DMs checking if I'm okay. I am, well, as okay as someone can be after their entire family life implodes. Physically, I'm fine. It turns out anger is a strong motivator for healing. Who knew? For the dinner, I spent all day preparing while Cindy was at work and Megan was at school. I cooked everything myself. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and meatballs, garlic bread and a salad. It's Megan's favorite meal from her childhood. Yes, I'm aware of the irony of making her favorite meal for this particular occasion. But old habits die hard, I guess. I set the table with our good dishes, those you only bring out on Thanksgiving or Christmas. I printed out all my evidence and placed it in a folder next to my plate, set up my phone to record everything, and even shaved and wore a nice button-down shirt instead of the sweatpants and t-shirts I had been living in during my recovery. Owen texted me around 5 p.m. to check in, asking if I was sure I wanted to do this without him present. I told him I needed to handle it myself, but that he should be ready to come over if I called. Arthur also texted his support, reminding me to stay calm and stick to the facts. At about 5:30 p.m., Cindy came home. She seemed surprised to see the table set and dinner prepared. Asking if Owen had helped me, I just smiled and said I was feeling much better. She had this strange look on her face, kind of disappointed, but covered it quickly and said she was going to change before dinner. Megan arrived at 5:45 p.m., already complaining about some drama with her friends. Before she even closed the front door, she stopped mid-sentence upon seeing the dining room, asking what the special occasion was. I simply said I wanted to have a nice family dinner. By 6:00 p.m. we were all seated. The normalcy of it felt almost surreal. Here we were, having dinner like any other family, while I was sitting on a nuclear bomb of information ready to destroy everything. I waited until they had both taken a few bites. Cindy was discussing some office gossip while Megan half listened, scrolling on her phone under the table. I cleared my throat and asked Megan to put her phone away just for dinner. She rolled her eyes but complied. Then I asked them both if they remembered visiting me in the hospital 2 weeks ago, specifically on the 3rd day of my stay. They both nodded, with Cindy mentioning the flowers they had brought. That's when I dropped the first bomb. I played the audio recording from my phone. I had the foresight to start recording on my smartwatch when I first heard their voices in the hallway that day. The quality wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough to hear Cindy say that once I died, they would finally receive the life insurance money and move somewhere better, along with Megan's comment about being tired of pretending to care about me. The looks on their faces. I wish I could have captured that moment. Cindy went completely pale, and Megan's jaw dropped open. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then they both began speaking at once. Cindy claiming I misunderstood, and that they were discussing something else, while Megan cried, saying she didn't mean it. I simply sat there, allowing them to dig their own graves. When they finally ran out of excuses, I opened my phone folder and laid out the evidence, piece by piece. The screenshots of Cindy's emails about houses she couldn't afford, the browser history showing her searches for life insurance payout timelines, and Megan's text to her friends about me being pathetic. Cindy switched tactics, moving from denial to anger, bringing up old disputes and ways I had supposedly failed her over the years. She lamented that I never provided her the life she deserved, while her friends' husbands made more money, had bigger houses, and took nicer vacations. After 22 years together, all she seemed to care about was what I hadn't provided. Materially, not our life or memories, just material possessions. I let her rant until she ran out of steam, then calmly informed them both about the actions I took over the past 2 weeks. I explained the changes to my life insurance policy, detailing how she wouldn't receive a cent of it anymore. Her face twitched at that, and I could tell I had struck a nerve. I informed her of the savings account I had split, taking my legal half, and told her that divorce papers would be delivered to her tomorrow. I assured her that my lawyer had confirmed. She wouldn't get much given the circumstances. Then I turned to Megan, explaining the changes to her college fund, how she could still use it for education but wouldn't receive it as cash. Her face crumpled at that, and she began apologizing, insisting she didn't mean any of it and that she loved me. For a split second, I almost believed her, almost. But then I recalled her text messages, not just the ones about waiting for me to die, but the one where she stated I wasn't her real dad, just the guy who married her mom. I looked her in the eye and told her that while I would always love her, I didn't trust her anymore. Trust is earned, and she would have to earn it back if she wanted me in her life again. Cindy, desperate at this point, tried to pull the "but we're family" card, suggesting we could work through this in counseling. I laughed and asked her if she had been thinking about our family bond when she was planning how to spend my life insurance. By that point, dinner was basically over, food half-eaten and cold, Cindy in tears and Megan texting someone frantically under the table, likely her friends for support. I stood up and told them I would be staying at Owen's place effective immediately, and that I expected them both to vacate the house by the end of the month. Once the divorce proceedings determined how assets would be divided, I grabbed my pre-packed bags from the bedroom and walked out. Owen was waiting for me in his car down the street, and I texted him when things began to escalate. We drove back to his place in near silence. He asked if I was okay once, and I simply nodded, not trusting myself to say much. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my phone has been inundated with texts and calls from both of them, Cindy alternating between apologizing, threatening me legally, and begging me to return home, while Megan primarily sends messages of apology. I've been responding minimally, just facts about the divorce proceedings and when I'll retrieve more of my belongings. The practical fallout has been complicated. I'm currently staying at Owen's spare room while searching for an apartment. The divorce notification has been delivered, and Cindy apparently had a complete meltdown when she realized I was serious. She's already attempted to call Arthur, my lawyer friend, to explain her side, but he didn't answer her call, of course. The hardest part has been dealing with mutual friends and family. Everyone is curious about what happened, and some have taken sides without hearing the full story. My mom has called multiple times, confused about why her daughter-in-law and granddaughter are suddenly claiming, "I've lost my mind and abandoned the family." I'm addressing it one person at a time, providing evidence when necessary. Most people understand once they hear the recordings. A few think I'm overreacting and that I should forgive them because family is family. Those individuals can kindly take a hike. So where does this leave me? I'm staying at my brother's place at 49 years old, starting over after 2 decades of marriage. It's not where I expected to be at this point in my life, that's for sure. But you know what? I'm not as devastated as I anticipated. There's something oddly liberating about having all the illusions stripped away. No more pretending everything is fine when it isn't. No more exhausting myself for people who see me as a meal ticket rather than a husband and father. I had a beer with Arthur last night, and he said something that resonated with me. Some people spend their whole lives never knowing who genuinely cares about them and who doesn't. At least now, I know for certain. It's been 6 months since that dinner, and I thought you all deserved a final update on how things turned out. The divorce was finalized last month. Cindy didn't receive much in the end. Arthur made sure of that. The evidence of her essentially waiting for me to die proved to be quite damaging in the proceedings. She has had to downsize to a small apartment and actually secure a full-time job, rather than continuing with her part-time gig. From what I hear through mutual friends, she's incredibly bitter and is telling anyone who will listen that I ruined her life. As for me, I've moved into my own place now. Nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom apartment closer to work. It's strange living alone after so many years, but also peaceful in a way I'd forgotten. No one questioning why I want to watch football every Sunday. No one complaining about the leftovers. I eat for 3 days straight because cooking for one is challenging, just quiet. Regarding Megan, that's been the most surprising development. About 2 months after everything unfolded, she reached out, asking if we could meet for coffee. I was hesitant, but ultimately agreed. She showed up looking different, somehow smaller and less sure of herself. She brought a handwritten letter, not trusting herself to express everything verbally. The essence of it was that she knew she had been awful, and while she wasn't directly asking for forgiveness, she wanted me to know that she now understood what she had thrown away. We've met a few more times since then. It's awkward and stilted. Nothing like the relationship we used to have, but it's a start. She's now attending a state school she can afford with some scholarships, and it seems she's taking it seriously, which is a positive sign. I'm not sure if we'll ever regain what we once had. Some trust, once broken, remains that way. However, I'm open to seeing where it leads. She's young, and young people often make foolish, cruel mistakes. As for Cindy, that chapter is closed for good. Some betrayals cut too deeply to heal properly. So that's where things stand now. Not exactly a fairy tale ending, but a real one. Life goes on, even after the people you thought would always be there reveal their true colors. Thank you all for accompanying me on this journey, Reddit. Your support and advice have meant more than you know. During the darkest days of this entire ordeal. I might not post much after this. I'm focusing on rebuilding my life rather than dwelling on the past. But I wanted you all to know how things turned out. Life's too short to spend it with people who are waiting for you to die.